Leaving Heidelberg now, we're taking taxis to the train station, and that's a quick ride. It's a small city after all, and we regroup in the station, have time to pick up a newspaper or perhaps a little sandwich. Then we're soon heading down to the train platform to wait for the train that will take us on a direct journey from Heidelberg on to Munich. It just takes less than 2 hours to travel by train to Munich, and there's some nice scenery along the way, of course. A lot of farmlands, some small towns going by. Very comfortable on the first-class European train system. You can relax, walk around, go to the snack car, take some pictures out the window, chat with your fellow travelers. And then soon enough, we have arrived in Munich, in the heart of Bavaria in southern Germany. Beer, sausages, oompah music, high-tech, more beer, and lots of culture. Where else in the world could you be but Munich? This is probably Germany's most interesting city, with its mix of old and new, north and south cultures, efficiency, and heart and soul. They've got museums, they've got shops, of course, there's fine dining, and plenty of casual cafes. Did we mention beer? The natives drink an average of 300 quarts of beer per capita, which is twice as much suds as the rest of Germany, and makes them the brew-champions of the world, as you'll see in the numerous outdoor beer gardens that are filled at all hours, yes, even in the morning, with enthusiastic imbibers. But if you prefer wine or gulp, perhaps soft drinks, there are many excellent local choices to pick from. The historic center of the city is ideally laid out in a compact, scenic way that makes it very easy to get around on foot and cover most of the important sites in a couple of days. Throw in a few museums, and you have another perfect 3-day destination to include in your essential list of Europe's great cities. We're going to walk, of course, for a few hours straight in that direction. It's only about 20 minutes walking from here to the main town square, which is Marienplatz, and that's where the old town hall is at. And that's going to be our main first destination. We'll make a few little stops along the way, certainly. We'll be zigging and zagging. And then I found out something about the museum hours today. First of all, the German Museum, the Science Museum, it's called the German Museum. It's open every day until 5 o'clock. Fine Art Museum is open on Tuesday nights until 8 o'clock. So those of you interested in that Fine Arts Museum, and it's really a good one as I've been telling you, we should do that today after our walk. And so that gives us plenty of time, really. And then tomorrow afternoon, we can get to the Science Museum till 5 o'clock. Tomorrow afternoon is free time. The shops are open till about 8 o'clock every night. And we're heading down the main shopping street. From here, again, to the Marienplatz, it's about 20 minutes, let's say just over a half-a-mile walk. So it's comfortable. If you rode the subway, it's one stop. And the subway costs about €1.10. And there's machines there, so you could come back via subway, or we'll walk back. We'll see how you're doing. Okay, so let's head down to the street. Staying at the Sofitel Hotel. Very comfortable. Now you look in the distance, you can see a gateway. That's the Karlstor Gateway, and a lot of traffic. There's a lot of streets. It's about 3 streets, and here's where we go underground to avoid all of that traffic. So we'll go down the escalator and through the underground pedestrian passage, and then we're going to come up on the other side of that fountain over by the Karlsgate, and that'll lead us into the pedestrian part of the old town. And you walk through this underground passage. There's a lot of shops and cafes and sausage places and department stores down here even. And it takes you up another escalator on the other side. This is one of the 3 surviving gates from the Middle Ages. It was a walled town, like most cities here. And the wall is all gone except for those 3 gates. This is Karlstor. From here, it's a straight shot down to the Marienplatz, We'll stop at a few churches along the way. There's St. Michael's Church. We want to have a peek at the inside, and we'll look at the great cathedral, and we'll do some roundabouts. But if you were to go just straight from here to the Marienplatz, you could rush it in 10 minutes or 15 minutes, leisurely walk right on down. No more cars. On your right side is the Augustiner Brewery. It's the oldest beer hall in Munich. It was founded by the Augustinian monks, and the interior is a historic landmark. So maybe later on your own, I'd suggest you go on inside, and whether you have a beer or not, certainly just go on in and take a look. We're not going to stop as a group and eat a real sit-down lunch, but I know we're all hungry, and we want to get some kind of like a pretzel snack, and we're just looking for maybe a sidewalk stand that might have some pretzels, so hang in there. But our next stop is going to be this St. Michael's Church. It's quite a marvelous interior. So that's where we're heading now. And it's particularly noted for its size, the vast size of the barrel-vaulted nave and the span. Exiting Michael's Kirche, you're right back on the main pedestrian pathway. And here's an interesting statue. It's a bronze wild pig based on that famous one in Florence in Italy. Great spot for a photo op. And then we continue around the bend, take a left, and you'll come upon the Munich Cathedral. It's the great cathedral, the Frauenkirche, the Church of Our Lady, also called the Dom, D-O-M. Cathedral because there's a bishop in residence, and obviously it's the biggest church in town. The highest tower, 100 meters high, so it's about 330 feet high. The church was begun in the mid-13th century, so in the Gothic style. Pretty remarkable they could build such a high nave way back in that time period. And as you see, the interior is fairly plain, just the white with a little bit of trim and some stained glass windows. It's pretty much uniform, as you see, looking down. In the German style again. Some later in the Baroque period got very elaborate on the inside in German decor. And also we'll be getting shortly to the Theatinerkirche, which is a Baroque interior, quite elaborate with stucco decor. But again, no color, it's just the white effect. One of the notable monuments inside is a tomb of Max Joseph IV over here. It's a huge black tomb that we could take a look at on the way out. These next several blocks for me are just some of the most appealing in the city, if not in Europe. It's just really attractive the way they've got it all finished, the arcades, the tram tracks coming through. There's a little S-curve to the street up ahead, and that'll lead us right into the Opera Square, Max Joseph Platz, and then we'll have some more walking following that. And then we have this wonderful S-curve of the tram tracks. And in this direction is another pedestrian street. You see here it's Theatinerstrasse, and there's Theatinerkirche. At the end, we'll see that later. Not theater, it's Theatiner. That was a religious order. Upscale shops along it. Folks, to me, this spot that we're standing on right here is one of the nicest parts of all of Munich. We're surrounded by upscale stores. Behind you is a shopping mall, so within that block there's many more shops. To your right is the Rathaus. We're seeing the back of it here. That's the City Hall, the Rathaus. We'll see it again from the front in a little while. It's all pedestrian, as you can tell. We're going to head around the bend right into Max Joseph Platz and the Spatenhaus restaurant, and we'll have a look at the facade of the Opera and the Royal Palace. It's one of the main squares of town, Max Joseph Platz, and you see the beautiful Opera looking like a Greek temple with those columns and the two triangular pediments, a large one and a smaller one behind, and palaces on both sides. On your right side with the columns, that was a private palace. It's now the post office. On your right side with the orange tinted building. And they have a nice cafe in that loggia. I don't know if they have any outdoor tables today, but there's a nice cafe there. It's called the Feldherrnhalle. It looks like the loggia in Florence. So once again, we have Florentine architecture. and yet in the German style. And there's the bells of the Theatinerkirche. We're going to walk inside there, Theatinerkirche. We'll spend a few minutes in there, and then we'll exit and walk down that shopping mall that goes just to your left. Okay, let's go check it out. The defining elements here, the really special elements here, are the columns, the spiral columns with those garlands wrapped around them, and the little putti, the little angels. It's unique to the Theatinerkirche. It's really so marvelous, along with all of the other elaborate stucco works that go with it. The various saints and cardinals of the church and angels. But in particular, it's those columns. They're spiral like some of the columns in St. Peter's. They say that that goes back to the Temple of Solomon, the motif of spiral columns. But to see it with those garlands wrapped around it and the little angels entwined in the garlands, it's just really special. And again, it's not done with any flashy color. It's all the monochrome effect. And along the sides we have aisle, and it looks like triumphal arches. That was a typical Italian motif as well on the sides of the church. Triumphal arches. Theatinerkirche. Theatiner. It's after the order of the Theatiners. It kind of sounds like theater church, but it's not theater church. It's Theatinerkirche. It's just so elaborate.
Exiting the church brings us right out to Odeonsplatz, another center of town.
This street to your left is called Ludwigstrasse. And Ludwigstrasse is one of the main streets of Munich. We'll be driving up there on our bus tour tomorrow morning. At the end, you can see a triumphal arch visible from here. Tomorrow morning, we'll drive there. This is the real center of town, the Rathaus. This is actually the new town hall, I should say. The old town hall is that structure down there. And that goes back to the Middle Ages. It too was bombed out in World War II. So that's the old Rathaus. This is the Rathaus. This looks very old, but it was actually constructed in 1890s in a neo-Gothic style in Northern European, actually Netherland style of neo-Gothic. And then in World War II, it was bombed flat and then subsequently rebuilt. In the basement is the Ratskeller. The doorway is just beyond the center, and it's a wine cellar. It's not a beer cellar. And nice restaurant, Ratskeller. And it is the city hall. It's famous for its glockenspiel clock. Goes off on the hour briefly, but the real show is 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. And there's a little parade of soldiers and such that come around and they joust, and it's really quite a show. So if you're in the neighborhood at 11 a.m. or 5 p.m. possibly, you want to stop and have a look at that glockenspiel. And there's also a tourist information office here in the Rathaus. It's a big department store, so if you're looking for something, if you've forgotten an alarm clock, like I did on the previous trip, you could go in here and find one.
Oh, you went to the one?
Or if you're cold, they sell all sorts of great clothing. There's a food counters up on the top there. Well, you know, we're surrounded by foods. There's so much foods here.
Everything is good.
Well, speaking of surrounded by food.
Let's go. The Viktualienmarkt is through the arch and to the right. Is that what you're getting at? Okay.
You read my mind.
All righty, here we go.
It's past lunchtime and the troops are getting hungry.
Now we're at the famous food market of Munich, the Viktualienmarkt. It's a huge outdoor open-air produce market. They've got cheese and sausages and, of course, beer and sandwiches and all kinds of food treats at the Viktualienmarkt. You can get fresh fruits, you can get salads to go, have a picnic in the park, or just queue up and get a bratwurst sausage sandwich. That's the classic meal of Munich.
You're watching highlights of our trip to Central Europe. As we leave Munich, we look back upon our visit.
There's lots of shopping in Munich. That was exciting. And all the history there. The museums are great. I've wanted to see those museums since I was in high school.
Oh yeah, the Munich Museum.
Yeah, the Munich Museum.
Munich, what I enjoy looking at the buildings, all the architecture, and that former city hall. Yeah. It really fascinated me when I came upon that building and came on into that square-like. and you saw all of the statues on that building. And I really appreciate the craftsmanship that goes into all of the statues and how they put it up, and you know how high it is and the time they took. So that's what really fascinated me.
Really? Not like a modern building with a
Yeah, right. Just coming up. So
glass wall.
right.
Munich had a nice hotel. It was a very high-tech hotel, very nice.
I enjoyed Munich.
The beer.
The beer.
Yeah. So there's a lot of places to, walk around, and
Very nice.
Oh, the beer house, Hofbrauhaus and Rathskeller were fun.
Food was great. Yeah.
Easy walking here and there. See the sights.
We got to enjoy the food, the local food, the hot dogs and krauts and bratwurst.
Bratwurst, Wiener Schnitzel,
Yeah, and beer.
beer.
Yeah.
And every place, every restaurant has their own beer. They usually either make themselves or that they get from a particular supplier for their restaurant. It's interesting.
A tradition 1,000 years old around here.
Yeah, and then they do have this time of the year the Oktoberfest beer. It's a special beer just for Oktoberfest, which was really good.